Yo, he is so much fun.
Out of my way!
See how fast I am compared to Bunny? Let's go. All right, time to do an update on another descendant, Esiemo. Now, the game did a huge update, updating Freyna, Kyle, and Esiemo. Now, we will be doing a full guide on Freyna when Ultimate Descendant Freyna comes out. But today, we're going to be updating our Esiemo because they reworked him a lot. I got to say, he's pretty fun. So, I'm Reckless from Reckless Player Gaming. Let's get started. All right, welcome back. Now, I want to get back to the way we were normally doing our videos. So I want to feature a comment on our last video here. And if you want your comment to be featured in our next video, leave a comment on this video to have your chance to be featured in our next video. All right, we're going to go ahead and look into Esiemo. Now, they did redo a lot of his kit. What we're going to be going over is pretty much everything. We're going to do a quick rundown on his basic skills again. Then we're going to do a quick look at his transcendent mods, and then we're going to show you some mods that you can put into these certain transcendent mods to make those kits good. And we're going to talk about future uses for Esiemo as well. All right, so let's do a quick rundown on his skills. We'll go through the skills really quick, and then we'll go into some of these transcendent mods. So if you don't know his kits, pretty much 2 and 3 are both mines. They have different scaling of power. They do some explosive damage. His skill 1, pretty much you can throw this mine, but wherever you are looking down the scope or wherever you're looking at your reticle with that crosshairs is where that bomb is going to go. It does have a radius. It starts at 3 meters and it can go up to 200% of that. So we're looking at 6 meters is your max that you can actually do on this. You can only have 5 of these out on the field at one time. Now, keep in mind, if you want to have a faster cooldown, you can spam these abilities a lot faster. You're going to start seeing a few things we're going to be going over with as well. But he does get a burst damage. His burst damage percentage is at 439%. Again, that is very similar to what the 3 is. The 3 is a guided landmine, which they changed up his animation. Now it no longer slams the floor. You kind of just do a quick underhand toss, and this allows you to now all his abilities allow you to move while you're actually doing your abilities. Before, they used to slow you down. It felt like a heavy grenade launcher in your hands when you were using his abilities. Now they're a lot more streamlined. In this case, his 3 is the more powerful bomb that he has. It has a bigger radius. It has a bigger scale multiplier. And it has a slightly bigger, same range actually. But it does a lot more damage. You can only have 3. And we're going to be talking about some things you need to know about his kit briefly. There is a mod that changes out his 3. We're going to talk about all of that. But 1 and 3 are his mines. Now, they changed it in the hotfix that his 3 now will trigger when you activate your 2 to detonate. And speaking of 2 is now your detonate. Before, they used to cost you MP to actually use your detonate, and it was very little, but it was enough to mess you up when you're trying to detonate. Now it no longer calls you to MP to activate, which is amazing. But you do have a cooldown. It is really fast. It's 2 seconds, almost 3. But you're going to bring probably cooldown in a lot of his builds. You're going to bring cooldown down a little bit. So you're looking at probably 2 seconds mark when it comes to cooldown. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you don't change his kit at all, every bomb you do pop off will give you 35% more damage for every bomb you do detonate on this. Now, this is specifically when you don't touch his 2 cluster bombs. Will change this. You no longer get that extra bonus. But by having this, if you use your 2, any bombs you did have has an extra 35% more damage on top of it. And as you see, you can only have 8 at a time. So keep that in mind. When you first start off the game, you actually only have 8 5 of the time bombs and 3 of the guided landmines, so that's 8 altogether. You put all those out and you activate 2, everything gets exploded, and you get additional 35% as well. Now, going over his 4 is called Archy Explosion. Pretty much they changed his animations. It used to do like a sumo squat, and then he will run. Now, it is still a little bit harder to control, so for those who are on a controller, it might be a little tough to, guide him as you're running. But a lot of times you kind of aim down the sight, and that's kind of where you're going to go, almost like a bowling alley. But if you're on mouse and keyboard, you have really high DPI setting on your mouse, you'll be able to move around pretty nicely with it. It's not as great, but you'll still be able to move around. I'm going to start showing you some B footage of that as well. You'll be able to see how quick you're able to move around. I have my mouse, give or take, around 2700 DPI. You can go higher if you want. But give or take, that's good for me, and I even don't mind it having this issue. But 4 pretty much will do, it would knock back any target that's in his way. It would then, when you detonate, you can either do one or two things. You can either let it cool down and let it do its own cooldown and detonate by itself, or you can re-trigger your skill 4 and it would detonate when you want it to detonate. He does have some funny animations when you jump and double jump, and if you happen to do jumping, he actually does like a belly flop, which is pretty funny. This character is really fun. You're gonna start seeing some footage also with me being in a dungeon. I think this guy is amazing. I had so much fun on stream building this character. The way you're gonna see one of the loadouts, he was so much fun playing it, and it was also funny to see how he looks and how he's running, all that stuff. You'll see what I'm talking about in a little bit. But pretty much skill 4 is his ultimate. It is, at the time, was one of the most damaging mods out there, or the most damaging skill out there. But now Haley has that ability. But the skill 4 has a 7,414% burst damage, which is pretty solid. Again, this is the second most highest damage that I know of out there. On top of that, you could increase your range if you wanted to of that explosion. You start out at 6 meters, but then you can bring this up to 12 meters if you wanted to. You do have an 80-second cooldown. You're going to start seeing footage of it in a little bit. I'm able to bring this down really low. The lowest I've been able to bring it down is around 4 to 5 seconds. I think you're capped. I don't think there's any other way to go further than that. But it is crazy how good this is. But if you use his Transcendent mod, this changes up altogether. But what they ended up doing with this specific ability is now you have skill power increase, firearm attack, movement speed, and defense. And I believe the skill power increase is the newer thing on here, so it allows you to do more damage, which is really nice. So now when you're done using your 4, you can then use your 1 and 3 and do more damage with your 1 and 3, which again is really solid. Or if you have a really fast cooldown, you can bring this cooldown again, and then you can re-trigger your 4 again. But you also have that all that comes into a buff upon yourself when you activate your 4. And it's only until you activate and explode yourself that you actually get the buff called Madness that gives you all these buffs. Now the next is his passive. Now it used to change. It was before that whenever you broke your shield, that the bomb would actually drop, and you had, I think, a 30 or 60 second cooldown on there. Now you have it whenever you take hits, you would actually drop a bomb. But now it's upon hits, so you would drop a bomb. Now again, it does have a 60-second cooldown. If you are bringing cooldown into your mix, specifically on your builds, you can bring this down really low, which means that you can keep triggering his bomb to go off. If you have a really nice cooldown on there, you can work on range, but the range on here starts off at 4 meters, and you can go up to 8 meters. So if you are looking into that, if you're trying to play around with a little bit of his build, the build just going based off his kit, you're looking at not worrying about skill power modifiers, because he has pretty high modifiers. What you're going to be looking at is more cooldown, but maybe a little bit of range. Even 1 nimble fingers in a good purple, blue, or even gold reactor for range can get you in that max range, so you don't have to go too crazy. So 1 mod on range. If you want to work on duration, it's up to you, but everything else is going to be looking to, some survivability and then doing some damage. pretty much is what you're going to be looking at when it comes to his specific kits. What I want to do now is go over some of the Transcendent mods you can look at. So let's go ahead and go look into those. Now you have 4 Transcendent mods currently as of right now. We're going to go over a few of them. Now, I'm going to show you how I have mine currently built out. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, as I'm just going to throw this in here so you guys can see it. They did change cluster bombs. What this does is takes away your skill, normal skill 2, and it gives you a cluster bomb so that they also go off. Smaller radius. You do lose 20% more damage than your normal one. So that's something to keep in mind. The burn isn't as strong as it was before. The range is a little smaller, so it's not the range they did nerf for a little bit, but the damage doesn't feel like it's worth it to me, in my personal opinion, anymore. But if you like cluster bombs, hey, cluster bombs is still fun. It is fun to see those explosions go off. But to me, there's better mods for him specifically. All right, the next mod I want to go over is Explosive Evade. Now, Explosive Evade takes away your passive, and what this does is instead of when you take a hit, it drops a mine for you. Now, when you roll, it actually drops a mine for you. Now, this again, if you want to build towards cooldown, bigger radius, this has a really big radius. It is 10 meters. You can put that to 220 meters, which is 200%, which is really big radius. So this is a really fun build if you like this specific build. I personally do like this now more. There's something else that I'm going to be talking about, but I do like this a lot more. You could build specifically even for it. I'm going to show you a build that I prefer a little bit more, but I will be building a build for this specifically. I do find that this is very interesting. It has a bigger range. It has a good amount of damage that it can do. Again, it is very often you can keep rolling if you have your cooldown set correctly. This is a really good build. Like I said, what you are doing is taking away when you take damage, it actually drops a landmine, but you are doing this instead. I personally like this over cluster bombs for sure now. I think this is a lot better than cluster bombs. The survivability, being able to roll, and when you roll away, most likely you're rolling away, you drop a landmine, and as comes to you, they will grab it and then you can detonate that. So this is a really good build. This is not the build specifically in the loadout, but this is a really good mod that I will be making a build specifically for. That is fun as well. As if you guys want to, that's just the way I'll show you guys how I will plan to make this specific build. But this is another Transcendent mod you could build for. And with Explosive Evade, something very important. If you notice the passive all the way in the bottom, it says max creation quantity times 3. So your normal guided landmine, your skill 3, the max that you can put out on a fast cooldown, no matter how fast you are, is 4. You put a 5th one down, the first one blow up no matter what. So you can only put 4 down. Now with this, you can actually add times that by 3, so you can put 12 down, but there is a catch. It has to be attached to an enemy for that actual 12th bomb to keep coming out. So just to let you know, again, it is still capped at 4, but if you try to put a 5th one down, even with this mod on, it will blow up. But if your bombs are attached to an enemy, all bombs from 1 to 12 can be put out. So you can actually have 12 guided landmines. If you have a fast enough cooldown, enough MP, you can actually put 12 guided landmines and then explode this up. But keep in mind that you have to have them attached. If you don't have any landmines attached to anything, you can only have 4 out. All right, the next Transcendent mod I want to go over is Explosive Propaganda. Now, this mod has been reworked. What this mod now does, it actually scales off of your personal HP and defense. So if you want your taunt out there as well, to stay out longer, you now need to work on duration. And you also need to have HP and defense if you want it to stay out longer for yourself. So if you want to be working on this specific build, If you don't know what explosive propaganda does, real quick, you make a clone of yourself pretty much. You throw a little landmine. It has a clone of yourself. It does a few dances. Anything that's in that radius, it will draw that attention to it and it will be stuck there. Now, everything besides avoid intercept battles, the bosses, can be taunted specifically on this. So if you're trying to taunt, a group of ads, then this would be amazing. You can have 2 to be able to always have up as well, which is really nice. You cover your bases. When I first played Esiemo, I didn't like this, and I will still say I'm not a huge fan of it. The reason why I say I'm not a huge fan is personally my playstyle. His playstyle, if you use this mod, this will also be considered a landmine that can be detonated if you activate your 2. So what does that mean specifically is if you put your taunt out on one corner of the field and there's as they're being clustered together there, then you turn around on the opposite corner on your 6 in your sense, you're behind you decide to throw time bombs over there and you want to detonate them. You can detonate those time bombs, but when you do detonate, you also get rid of your taunt. My personal opinion on this, I don't like that. If I leave a taunt out there, I would like my taunt to stay out there until 1, the duration it ended, or 2, it actually HP or defense actually ended up being destroyed and then it blows up as well. I don't personally like that my 2 also detonates that. Again, this is just my personal playstyle. Everyone's playstyle is different. This will be amazing with the new invasions that are probably coming up. The new infiltrations coming up, you're going to have 400% on here. And you're going to have mobs and mobs come out. Now, I think he's going to be amazing specifically for that. With this specific build, he will be amazing. Put the taunts out there. Keep the ads clustered in a couple spots. And then you can go ham on those. I think this is going to be a really cool build to have when those new invasions do come. That's just my personal opinion. Again, I do plan to still make this build when those invasions do come. Again, just my play style. I just have to play a little bit different when using this. Just keep that in mind that if you use this, that whenever you detonate with your 2, with your time bomb, if you have this out, you also will get rid of your taunt as well. So just keep that in mind. All right, now you're gonna get to my favorite mod for him. Now, this was a really good mod before. I felt like it needed some rework a little bit, and the rework that they did with this mod is amazing. Chef kiss when it comes to this mod. Now, this changes out your 4 ability. Now, instead, what you do is you run, again, no sumo slam. You actually run normal, but what it does is it actually consumes any bombs you have on you. It would consume those bombs and do more damage upon as many bombs as you actually have. He consumes all your bombs you have available for yourself. Now, you normally have 8 bombs. You have 5 time and 3 guided landmines. So he consumes all 8 of those. And when he consumes them, he does more damage when you explode. Again, just like your normal number 4 before, you can either wait for the duration to end for it to automatically blow up, or 2, you can re-trigger your skill power again to trigger it manually. Again, you do massive amount of damage that is scalable because you have more bombs. So don't let the actual modifier scare you a little bit. But one of the coolest thing that they did was they changed his buffing mechanic. Now, the buff you actually have is narcissism. Now, just like the other one before, you have 14 seconds, but the only difference is you don't get the firearm attack and skill power. But what is very, very important is you get cooldown decreased by 40%. Now, this is one of my favorite. Now, with that being said, you can bring this cooldown so fast. You can keep activating this every 4 to 5 seconds. It is crazy. And again, within those 14 seconds, you are bringing your cooldown of all your abilities, your 1, your 3, and your 4. By the time you are done getting your 4 back up, if you have a fast cooldown, your 1 and 3 will have all your bombs back up. So for you to reactivate your 4, it is so much fun because they added this cooldown. This cooldown makes this mod so fun and enjoyable. And then on top of that, something very important that always bothered me when activating your 4. Now, this goes to any normal 4 or even the enhanced one with this creative explosion mod. You are now immune to knockdown and knockback. I used to be annoyed every time I get hit by a Kingfisher, trying to do a void boss with Esiemo, trying to figure out how his damage is, trying to use him, but then for a Kingfisher to push me back and I lose my 4. Now you no longer have to be knocked back or knocked down. This is amazing when it comes to some of those dungeon bosses when they are showing their immunity and there's a big circle and then they push everyone back and knock everyone down. In this scenario, you can actually stay within that circle and not worry about it and explode whatever he has. If you are dealing with those dungeon bosses that have orbs above their heads, this, if you build it correctly, will just destroy those orbs no matter how much health it has, because the amount of damage you can scale with this is crazy. What I like to now show you guys is my build specifically on this mod. So let's go ahead and show that to you now. All right, now I want to show you my build specifically that I have for my creative explosion build. Now this is a work in progress still. I'm still figuring out, tweaking a few things. Had a few people tell me a few things to tweak. This is what I'm using currently right now. Let's just kind of go over all the mods that I have on and I'll explain as we go. So you already know your creative explosion. Now I have nimble fingers, obviously for a faster cooldown. I have fire sync here because it is fire skill power times 10.2. You don't need to worry about skill modifiers too much. He already has a really high skill modifier. So what you really want to focus on is specifically skill power or fire skill power. You don't really want to focus too much on the modifier specifically. This actually helps you with giving that fire skill power, no modifier. So this is 10% there. All right, I am using focus on fire specifically. I want to type it up so you guys can see it. Why am I using focus on fire over fire specialist? Now, yes, you are getting more skill, fire skill power. The difference between fire skill specialist and focus on fire is about give or take 3%. But I lose at 3%, but I get faster cooldown. Now, for me to make up that difference in skill power, I actually have fire sync, so that I can gain not only the 3% that I'm missing, but an additional 7% on top of that. So I'm getting a little bit more damage by having this, but I also get a cooldown on it when it comes to that. Now, why do I have these 3 mods specifically? Now, the reason why I'm running these specifically is I rather have, when the damage does go off, for a crit value does go off, it does higher amount of that crit damage. Now, the max I was able to do, give or take myself, is in the ballpark of 17 million damage. Again, I'm using a 4-second cooldown or 5 or 6 second cooldown specifically. How do I have it set up? I have it at 7.3 second cooldown. Depending on your reactors and other things, you can get this a little bit lower. 7 is around the average, a good number for me specifically. But you're talking about 7-second cooldown on this, plus when you activate your 4th ability and get narcissism, that is a 40% decrease on top of that as well. So keep that in mind. You are getting your super back within less than 4 seconds, which is really good. So you're talking about 4 seconds for a chance to hit 17 million damage often, or at least enough for you can trigger a 17 million. But either way, you're getting in a ballpark of 3 to 5 million on normal damage numbers, and then you can crit to 16 to 18 million. If you want it to be a glass cannon, you could probably potentially get it higher for sure. You're looking in that ballpark of maybe 20 meters, give or take, maybe a little bit more, depending on what mods you use. But the most I've been able to hit with this specific setup is give or take around 16 to 17 million damage. You could put Decimator on here if you're going Colossus specifically. This is my dungeon build specifically that I am going to be showing you B-roll specifically on, that I was having so much fun on this. But this does, again, when it hits, it hits. You could focus a little bit more. You can take the front lines out and put emergency measures on here to give you a bit higher crit hit rate, up to you. But I rather have the more damage. When it does crit, I can have a lower number, I can have a lower crit hit rate, but when it actually does hit, is actually really solid. It's up to you how you guys want to play. The next one I have on is Spear and Shields. Now the reason I have Spear and Shields here is to give you that extra skill power, but I was playing around when it comes to defense. I had a few people come to me and let me know that you don't have to have crazy amount of defense. You can have a lower value defense and not go too crazy into it, because after a certain number, it actually doesn't help you at all. It's kind of like pointless depending on how you have your defense set up. I'm going to probably increase it just a little bit just to have a little bit more defense, but I'm not going to go too crazy. I do have a maxed out Spear and Shield that I don't need to have it maxed out, but I have this one specifically on here to give you a little bit more skill power. And this is again I'm hitting for give or take in a ballpark of 15 to 17 million damage here. Have some HP, obviously you need HP. I also have MP conversion to get more skill cooldown on top of this. Losing a little bit of MP kind of hurts you a little bit, but again, as long as you are, if you're not having issues with MP, then you should be fine. But if you are having issues with MP and you're using it for dungeons, you might want to look into making sure your components are giving you better MP, so you can balance this out specifically. But having that cooldown is very important. Like I said, to bring this cooldown from all the way down from 40 seconds, you're looking at 7.3 seconds, like I said. But on top of that, you actually have it with additional 40%. So we're looking at 3 to 4 seconds, and you're activating your super again, which is really good. And then I have focus on fusion. This is the only thing. It is a focus. It is a fusion build. So I am putting this on here not only for the chance to have a little bit more damage on the modifier, but actually to have another cooldown on there. So like I said, you don't have to go crazy on your modifiers because he has decent high modifiers, but I'm going to be using my ability. I spam my 4 so often that I just don't even use my 1 and 3. You're going to see my dungeon runs and some B-rolls. You're going to see that as well. So that is pretty much how I have my build. All right, one of the things I am playing around with is Blue Beetle when it comes to my creative explosive build, which is his ultimate build. It is a fusion build, and when you activate your fusion with Blue Beetle, it gives you arcane energy. Arcane energy gives you a chance to get a skill critical hit rate. If you have a base Blue Beetle, it gives you 50% chance to get a 10% chance skill critical hit rate. If you max this out, you have a guaranteed 100% trigger rate and a 30% critical hit rate on top of that. So I am going to be looking to maxing out my Blue Beetle to see how much more consistent is this build with a Blue Beetle. I did get lucky with an interesting Blue Beetle reactor that I'm going to show you guys, but I am playing around with this specifically for my creative explosion build. I think this can squeeze out a little bit more critical hit rate, which is why I'm focusing on more on the crit damage, leaving this buff of this weapon to give me that thing that I'm missing. Like I said, critical hit rate. This is not something that maybe some people know. I think this is a very interesting a playstyle you can play with Blue Beetle. Not everyone likes Blue Beetle. I need to build Blue Beetle. Unfortunately, it is not built out. I do need to farm out the rest of these to see if I can get a little bit more consistent. And right now, when it comes to scout rifles, it's not everyone's favorite. I believe we are getting another scout rifle in the next coming update. So we'll see what that gives us specifically. It's probably going to be mostly just for Haley, maybe for Viesa. But when it comes to this, scout rifles are not people's favorites, but I am using it just to be able to do more damage. Like I said, to be able to keep spamming out my skill 4, to keep activating that, to keep doing as much damage as I can. I'm trying this out. This is not guaranteed this way. If anyone else has any luck on there, I would like to know in the comments down below. But I started to look into this, and I'm wondering if this would actually help be a little bit more consistent. Like I said, if anyone knows, please leave a comment down below. But this is something that I've been trying to tweak a little bit to see if this can actually help me out. And when I was thinking about this build and I was trying to look for weapons that actually work with fusion, and I found that Blue Beetle is the weapon that actually works with fusion, I wanted to see if I can get a reactor specifically for it. And this week of this video that just passed, like I said, this is a Monday. Tuesday, tomorrow is a new update, so they won't have this reactor available. I did farm out for a Blue Beetle. I just happened to be extremely lucky and got a really good double gold fusion Blue Beetle that gives me cooldown and fusion skill power boost as well. I would like to have gotten one that gives me Colossus. I'm still working on one fusion that gives me a Colossus. I do have a couple Colossus ones, but the secondary perk isn't as great. It's either MP HP heal or attack damage to a specific faction. But I want to work on getting specifically a Colossus build. If I can get a Colossus with crit hit rate, that would be pretty nice. If I can get cooldown, that would be nice with a Colossus. But if you're looking for one like I am for void bosses, you're going to be looking for one that has Colossus on there to be able to do more damage specifically to the Colossus. But right now for dungeons, this is what I'm using. I just happened to get really lucky on my first try. Literally, I was on stream and I said, let's try this, and got 2 reactors, and this was my second reactor. And I could not believe that the roll that they gave me, amazing roll. If this build works really well with Blue Beetle, this would be a god roll specifically. Not sure, like I said, if this is the way I want to run Blue Beetle on Esiemo, but that's just the way I've been tweaking my brain a little bit, trying to figure out what I can do to make it a little bit more fun, more consistent, more damage. And I just happened to play around with Blue Beetle. I plan to re-roll Blue Beetle. I plan to put some more effort into it to get it stronger once I have it maxed out. All right, now when it comes to explosive evade, I'm kind of working with this build a little bit just to show you guys a little bit when it comes to this. This is, again, trying to bring a lot of cooldown down. We're now looking at from 20 seconds down to 3.7 seconds. So when you roll, you're going to constantly keep rolling, again, depending on your reactor and your other abilities, how you have it built out for cooldown. You can get this down a little bit more. I believe 2 seconds might be the cap. I haven't been able to get less than 2, but you could work on this to get a little bit more when it comes to this. But 3.7 seconds to me specifically seems to be a good amount. Again, you're rolling, and when you roll, you actually bring a guided landmine. Now, again, I have it for a little bit of range, so I'm there near max of 8 meters. I'm 7.7, so I have 0.3 until max. Not important for me to get that 0.3, but I'm just using pretty much what I have in my other builds. Again, really big cooldown, some range, some HP and defense just to give me some survivability. But what I'm also using is focus on tech. I am going to upgrade this as well because his ability, both his 3, his 1, and his 4, well, his passive correction are all tech, so you can build specifically towards tech. You could put a garden, secret garden built on this. Now, currently, as of this video is being made, this is a Monday. So tomorrow, Tuesday, there will be an update of the map of the reactors, and I will be looking to get a secret garden specifically build. That would be pretty interesting with him because you get pest control, which gives you a buff when it comes to that as well. So that's something that I might be looking to building as well. That is one of the reasons why I haven't finished building this build specifically. But that would be a very interesting weapon to be using on top of this as well. If you wanted to do Enduring Legacy because it's a fire weapon, you can go ahead and do that as well. But me specifically, I might be looking at doing a Secret Garden pest control Esiemo build when it comes to explosive evade. If you guys are playing it differently, let me know down in the comments down below. All right, that's pretty much it when it comes to Esiemo. Let me know what you guys think down below. I think he is so much more fun now with his rework. Now, is he on S tier? I think the damage that he does, if you can be more consistent with that actual, 16 million damage plus, depending on how you have him built out, I think he could be on the S tier, specifically for void bosses. When it comes to dungeon, to me, he is S tier. To me, he is as fast as Bunny. Surprisingly, he is really quick when it comes to when you activate his 4 and his movement ability. He is just as fast as Bunny when it comes to moving around, which is crazy. Me keeping up with a Bunny as Esiemo, seeing him with his flip-flops in his summer outfit, I think is really funny as well. Seeing him put out those Crocs into sport mode and then just chug it as fast as Bunny. Being able to spam his 4 out, have a big, huge range so that you can hit a huge target. So if you are in a dungeon, you can spam your 4, hit a big area, get in the middle, blow up that area, get that cooldown again, look for another area, big bomb blows up. He's been really fun. When I've been going to these dungeons and there's no Bunny, and I'm on there, I feel like I'm a Bunny using this specific Esiemo build. Being able to run around really quickly. He runs faster than Viesa. He runs faster than Valby. He keeps up with Bunny. I think he's really fun when it comes to that. He's very funny with his animations. When he jumps, he does a belly flop when you activate his 4. He's a very fun character. On stream, I had a lot of people watching me play with Esiemo and having so much fun with his movement ability, with his damage he's doing, how often he's popping up in dungeons. I want to try him more on some void bosses. I'm going to see about trying to do a stream soon about void bosses. But like I said, I've been able to get 16 to 18 million. I probably wouldn't bring him to Gluttony right now with this build. I might have to drop some of those crit values and make it more for survivability. But again, he does pretty good amount of damage when it comes to this. Maybe if you go in there with 4 Esiemos, maybe you might be able to do some crazy damage. If anyone is hitting from the ballpark of 15 to 20 million damage, you can really do a big chunk of damage when it comes to this. I think this is really nice that they reworked him. I think he's personally fun. I'm going to keep playing with him until Ultimate Freyna comes out. I want to keep playing around with him. He puts a smile on my face as I play him, and that's what really matters. When you're playing a character, you really want to enjoy that character, and now I think he's a lot more enjoyable. I can see why people put him as a D tier on his ranking, that he's not as great, maybe C at max, but really, to be honest with you, he was really kind of at D. Now he's a lot more fun. He's a lot more mobile. He does solid amount of damage. He has a kit that actually works with him a little bit more better. And if you build and invest in him, he's going to be fun. He's definitely up there with, for me, he's just a lot more fun. And I do like that. And he is valuable for anyone. So if anyone wants to invest in a character like this, you can feel more welcome to invest in a character like this and not worry about it being a waste. Before, in my first video a couple months ago, I wouldn't invest too much into him because I didn't like his kit as much. I did like it. I just didn't like it as much. Now I definitely say I thoroughly enjoy him a lot more for sure. But that's just my personal opinion. Let me know down in the comments down below. Comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.